Olá, bom dia a todos, né? Para que estamos aqui na América Latina e boa tarde para o pessoal lá da Alemanha, da Cosfatec. Eu sou a Eliane Dornelas, eu sou responsável técnico pelo setor de Ciências da Vida da Colormix Especialidades, e eu quero convidar, né, a vocês e dar as boas-vindas a todos vocês e agradecer pela presença nesta webinar da Colormix Especialidades. A Colormix é a organizadora deste evento, conta com o apoio da ABC, Associação Brasileira de Cosmetologia. E lembrando, né, que o uso da plataforma da webinar da ABC faz parte aí do pacote de benefícios dos associados jurídicos da associação. Este evento também está sendo transmitido pelo canal do YouTube, né? Então, caso você não consiga assisti-lo na íntegra, o vídeo ficará disponível tanto no canal Cosmetalk da ABC, como no canal da Colormix Especialidades. Então, aproveite aí a oportunidade, se inscreva no canal, né, nesses canais, e marque, né, para poder receber aí a informação e a notificação de novos vídeos. Este evento está sendo transmitido globalmente, e nós contamos com a tradução para o inglês para aqueles que estiverem no Zoom. Então, se você tiver a opção, né, preferir essa língua, basta clicar no botão Interpretation e selecionar o idioma da sua preferência. As perguntas ou dúvidas serão respondidas no final do evento, então peço que utilizem a opção do Q&A, que se encontra na barra embaixo, ou através do chat. E aí, caso sua pergunta, né, não tenhamos tempo para respondê-la, encaminha para o e-mail que a gente vai deixar aqui na tela, e a gente retorna para vocês. Então, nós agradecemos novamente aí a presença de todos vocês. E o tema do nosso evento hoje é sobre antioxidantes. Quem vai estar fazendo a apresentação é o Dr. Carsten Dietz, diretor técnico da Cosfatec. Seja bem-vindo, Dr. Carsten.
Thank you very much and welcome to the webinar, and thanks a lot for Colormix for giving the possibility to talk here today. And yeah, as you already mentioned, the topic today will be antioxidants. So please let me share my screen and then we can directly jump into the presentation. So I think it is working now. I hope so. Yeah, it should work. So, okay, today we are talking about antioxidants. And first of all, I would like to talk about why are antioxidants important. So first of all, we need to protect oils and waxes in cosmetic formulations against oxidation. And we also need to protect membrane lipids in our skin against oxidation because of UV light or sunlight at all. So what can we expect from an antioxidant, or what should we expect? So it should be highly effective. It should be very skin friendly and user friendly. In best case, it should be natural. And of course, it should be GMO free. I would like to start now with the first point here. So let's talk first about the protection of oils and waxes and why this is really important. I guess most participants here have a technical background. If we also have some participants which have not a chemical or technical background, don't be scared by some of my slides. I try to explain it as easy as possible. So what you can see here is the lipid peroxidation of fatty acids. So here we have the common structure of a fatty acid. And when we have very strong light, it can produce a radical. And this radical attacks the fatty acid. So a fatty acid radical is formed. And in combination with oxygen, we get a fatty acid peroxide radical. And this one here is the important step, because in combination with a new fatty acid, again, a fatty acid radical is formed, and then a chain reaction starts, and it will not stop. So this is really what we need to stop to protect the oils against oxidation. And of course, as you can see, or let me go back to this slide here, the number of unsaturated fatty acids inside of your fatty acid molecule, so the number of double bondings, is really important, because these are the areas where the radical really tries to attack. And if we take a look to different kind of oils, I will not go into detail of each oil here. You can see a different composition. So let me maybe choose two examples. So the first one, for example, coconut oil. Coconut oil consists of 91 saturated fatty acids, 7 mono unsaturated, and 2 double unsaturated fatty acids. So it's relatively stable, and this is also the reason why it is very often used for fast browning in the kitchen. So if you want to heat it very high in your pan during cooking, the coconut oil is a very suitable oil. If you compare the coconut oil, for example, to sunflower oil, which consists only of 10 saturated fatty acids and 30 monounsaturated and 60 double unsaturated fatty acids, you can see that sunflower oil is much less stable. And this is also something you need to consider in your formulation. So what kind of oils are you using? How stable are your oils? How much antioxidants should you add to your formulation to be on the safe side? One possibility to protect the fatty acids against oxidation are vitamin E or tocopherols, because the tocopherols can avoid the chain reaction. So the tocopherol takes the radical, and in this way it protects the fatty acid and avoids the chain reaction, the starting of the chain reaction. What is vitamin E? So vitamin E consists of tocopherol, and as you can see here from the chemical structure, you can see it consists of alpha, beta, gamma, and delta tocopherol. The molecules are very similar, but the only difference is here in the chroman ring. So alpha tocopherol has here 2 methyl groups, whereas beta tocopherol has only 1 methyl group. The gamma tocopherol has only 1 methyl group here, but no here. And the delta tocopherol has no methyl group or alkyl group in the ortho position. And this is important, and it's important to understand that the composition of the tocopherol depends on the plant you are using for the extraction. So, for example, if you want to have a tocopherol mixture that consists mainly of a high beta, gamma, and delta tocopherol content, you should extract your vitamin E from soybeans. If you want to have a high content of alpha tocopherol, but a very low content of beta, gamma, and delta tocopherol, you should extract it from sunflower seeds. And if you want to have something in between, so that has a higher alpha tocopherol and also a higher, an average beta, gamma, delta tocopherol content, you can use rape seeds for the extraction. Why is this important? Because beta, gamma, and delta tocopherol are the most important tocopherols if you want to protect the lipids and waxes in your formulation against oxidation processes. But if you want to protect your skin against oxidation processes, then you should choose a very high alpha tocopherol content, because the bioactivity of alpha tocopherol is by far the biggest, the highest. So take-home message here is definitely If you want to have a bioactive tocopherol to protect your skin against oxidation, choose alpha tocopherol. If you want to protect your oils against oxidation, choose a high beta gamma delta tocopherol content. So tocopherols coming from soybean or rapeseed. And I would like to share with you some tests, so-called Runtime tests. The Runtime tests are simulating the altering process of oils. So what you are doing, you have your pure oil as a reference, and then you are adding here to the other chambers your oil plus a specific concentration of your antioxidant, and you add it to the Runtime, and it's heated here under continuously airflow. And finally, you will get a so-called induction time. And the induction time finally shows you after which time period your oil became rancid. So the higher the induction time, the longer was the oil stable and not oxidized. And I mentioned before that alpha, beta, gamma, and delta tocopherol have a different efficacy if we are talking about protecting oils. And let's take a look to some Runtime test results. So what you can see here is the induction time. You can see here the plank, so the pure sunflower oil in this case that was used. And the sunflower oil was stable for 15 hours, but then the auto-oxidation and the chain reaction started and it became rancid. By adding 0.05% of alpha tocopherol, it was much more stable compared to our blank, to our reference. But if you compare it to the other tocopherol compositions, you can see that the T70 tocopherol, so mixed tocopherols with a high beta gamma content, are much more effective in the same concentration compared to alpha tocopherol. And the rapeseeded tocopherols are in between alpha and the soybean tocopherols because of a little higher concentration of beta, gamma, and delta tocopherol. And we can see the same results by adding a higher concentration of our tocopherol. So here 0.2% of alpha tocopherol. And even here, the 4 times higher concentration of alpha tocopherol was a little bit less efficient compared to 0.05% of mixed tocopherols. So this is really important to understand. If you want to protect your oils or your waxes against oxidation, use soybean or rapeseeded tocopherols. There are also some synthetic solutions existing on the market. For example, one good example and famous example is the BHT. So also I would like to take a look also to the performance of BHT versus mixed tocopherol and the rapeseeded tocopherol. And even here you can see that by adding 0.05% of BHT, our oil was protected for around about 23.5 hours, but the same concentration of T70 tocopherol from soybean was even more effective. The same for the rapeseeded tocopherol. Here the difference is not so huge, but it's still a little bit more effective. And what you need to consider as well is maybe a different kind of rating or some concerns that are existing on the market. This here is a screenshot taken from ewg.org, which is relatively famous in the United States. And here you can see that the score of BHT is a 3 because of a little increased cancer risk and also allergies and immunotoxicity risks. Whereas tocopherol has in all points absolutely no risk, so the best score of 1. What kind of tocopherols to protect the oils do we have in our portfolio? So we are offering T50 non-GMO eco, T70 non-GMO eco, and T70 non-GMO. The tocopherols inside of all three products are coming from soybeans. The only difference is what kind of oil is used to dissolve the tocopherols. So the number 70 means we have minimum 70% of mixed tocopherols inside and maximum 30% of oil. Here in T50, we have minimum 50% of mixed tocopherols, maximum 50% of sunflower oil inside. And the reason why we dilute it in sunflower oil is mainly of a higher user-friendly performance. So if you would use the pure tocopherols, it would be a very sticky and pasty material. So it's much more user-friendly if you dilute it in sunflower oil, because then it has the consistency or the texture of, let's say, a thick oil. So it's relatively easy to add to the formulation and also very easy to dissolve in the oil phase. The difference between the eco version and the GMO version, non-GMO version, standard and non-GMO eco version, is the Cosmos approval. Here we are using standard sunflower oil to dissolve the tocopherols. Here we are using Cosmos approved sunflower oil, and that's the only difference. So this one here has a Cosmos approval, this one here has no Cosmos approval. The recommended dosage is 0.1 to 0.2%. And if you are using T50 tocopherols, we also have some customers which prefer to use T50 tocopherol because of their factory and their production process. So they want to have an even more thinner oily substance. So they are using T50 tocopherol, and then the recommended dosage is of course a little bit higher. Is there any possibility to boost the efficacy of mixed tocopherols? Yes, of course, you can use Ascobil Palmitate. Ascobil Palmitate is an excellent booster for the efficacy of tocopherols because the Ascobil Palmitate is able to restore the tocopherol radical, and in this way you have for a longer time tocopherol available in your oil phase and therefore a higher protection value. The only big challenge by using Ascobil Palmitate is, of course, that Ascobil Palmitate is insoluble in water, but unfortunately it's also very low soluble in oil. So it's really hard to use the material and to dissolve it. And often when you try to dissolve it in oil, here you can see 0.2% of Ascobil Palmitate in sunflower oil. You got this kind of precipitations or particles that are not dissolving. So you need to heat the oil to completely dissolve it. And of course, heating is always a little bit counterproductive regarding the oxidation processes. So what can you do? A very good problem solver in this case are lecithins, so natural phospholipids, because they allow the dissolution of Ascobil Palmitate without increasing the temperature. So you can dissolve the Ascobil Palmitate even at room temperature, and you still have the 100% boosting efficiency of the Ascobil Palmitate for your tocopherols. We also have one blend in our portfolio that already consists of Ascobil Palmitate. In this case here, it's a tap mix. In this case here, the rape-seeded tocopherols and lecithin, sunflower-derived lecithin. It's also Cosmos approved, and 0.8% of tap mix contains roundabout 0.15% of rape tocopherol and roundabout 0.06% of Ascobil Palmitate. And what you can see here, that the even a lower concentration of the rape tocopherol is more efficient because of the boosting effect of Ascobil Palmitate. The pure Ascobil Palmitate does not show such a great effect, but in combination with tocopherols, you really have this boosting efficacy. The tap mix, if you want to use it, is a really shows a very high antioxidative efficiency. It is bioactive because it also contains a higher amount of alpha tocopherol inside, because as you might remember, the tocopherols are coming from rapeseed tocopherol. So we have a good amount of alpha tocopherol, beta, gamma, and delta tocopherol. You can also use it a little bit to improve the emulsifying process. It is also used often in kind of hair treatments, so hair care formulations, because of the antistatic properties of the lecithin. It can be used as an emollient, and of course, because of its skin conditioning properties. So to sum it up, we have here T50, T50 Eco, T70 Eco, T70. We are also offering T70 non-GMO soy. Soy means in this case that we are using soybean oil to dissolve the tocopherols. You can also get the pure Ascobil Palmitate if you want to mix it by your own. It's no problem. And we have the tap mix, which is what I mentioned, a mixture of the tocopherol and Ascobil Palmitate plus the sunflower lecithins inside. Here you can see that Ascobil Palmitate, tap mix, T50 Eco and T70 Eco are Cosmos approved. These two here are not Cosmos approved. And now I would like to continue with the second point of my first slide. So what do we need to consider when we are talking about skin protection by vitamin E? So the tocopherol is needed to protect the fatty acids in our membranes against oxidation. And here, again, it is really important to have a high alpha tocopherol content, because only alpha tocopherol shows a high bioactivity. And what kind of products do we have in our portfolio? So we have a product called E1000 non-GMO. E1000 non-GMO is alpha tocopherol. The number 1000 means international units. So we have minimum 67.1% of alpha tocopherol inside. And we have it in two versions. The E1000 sunflower is the Cosmos approved material. And here we have the standard version, which has not a Cosmos approval. If you want to have a modification of alpha tocopherol, you can do a so-called acetylation. So that means that you got alpha tocopherol acetate, and the alpha tocopherol acetate is more stable. So I mainly recommend it for formulations like sunflower, sun creams and products like this. But for a standard skincare products, I would always prefer to use the pure alpha tocopherol because it shows a higher efficiency. And one very frequently asked question is, what about synthetic alpha tocopherol? Because there is one big German chemistry company that is also producing synthetic alpha tocopherol. And is it absolutely the same if you compare it to the natural alpha tocopherol? And the answer is definitely no, it's not the same. Because as I mentioned before, we have with our natural alpha tocopherol a very high bioactivity. So the natural alpha tocopherol is also called D-alpha tocopherol or RRR alpha tocopherol, because this one here is 100% accepted by our human body. Whereas the synthetic alpha tocopherol is different. when you produce the synthetic alpha tocopherol, you also got all 8 possible diastereomers. So this means the orientation of our groups here. So we do not have just an RRR conformation. We also have the RSR, RRS, and so on. So what you can see here, so 8 different, and you have all kind of these stereoisomers in the same concentration inside. So all of them in a concentration of around about 12.5%. And this is, of course, the problem if you compare the synthetic alpha tocopherol to, or if you want to replace natural alpha tocopherol by synthetic alpha tocopherol. Yes, you can do it, but you need to consider that you have here a low biological activity of the other diastereomers. So finally, you need to add round about a 5 to 6 times higher concentration of synthetic tocopherol to have the same efficiency in the human skin compared to using the pure natural version. This is definitely what you need to consider. And regarding the suitable antioxidants in our portfolio that can be used for skin protection, again, we have here the E1000 non-GMO, so minimum alpha tocopherol content 67.1%. We don't have the acetate inside, sunflower oil max 32.9%. It's not Cosmos approved. Here it is nearly the same product, but this one here has a Cosmos approval. If you want to have an acetate, of course, you can also get E1000 AC. So this has a content of, oh, this here is wrong. It has no alpha tocopherol inside. It has minimum 73% of tocopherol acetate inside, and the rest is oil. Recommended dosage is higher because the tocopherol acetate is more stable, but the tocopherol acetate cannot be used by our human body or by our skin. So first it needs to be converted, and this is done by some enzymes on our skin, but only 20% of the acetate is finally converted into bioactive alpha tocopherol. So to have the same efficiency compared to using pure alpha tocopherol, you need to add round about a 5 times higher concentration. And if you want to have a mixture between both, so if you want to protect your oil phase and waxes against oxidation, and with the same product, you also want to have a bioactive tocopherol, then again, I can recommend the tap mix because of the rapeseed tocopherol, which are based on their composition suitable for both, for skin protection and for the protection of the oils and waxes. And that's so far everything from my side. And yeah, now I will give back the word to Eliana, and maybe we have some questions.
Olá, já temos perguntas, Dr. Carsten. Eu vou fazer aqui, a primeira delas é a seguinte, né? Todo produto cosmético que contenha em sua formulação óleos e manteigas vegetais deve usar um antioxidante. Além da alteração, né, de odor, né, que a oxidação pode causar, o antioxidante pode trazer algum outro benefício para esse produto, além da proteção da não alteração do odor, da rancificação?
I mean, finally, yeah, the main property is, of course, it is an antioxidant to avoid oxidation. And there are not so big properties or other kind of properties coming just from the pure vitamin E. This would belong a little bit more to food supplements, but for cosmetics, it's mainly used because of its antioxidative efficiency. And you also mentioned one important point, the color and the smell, because the oxidized tocopherol does not lead to a color change in the formulation.
Obrigada. Uma outra questão, feita pela Tássia Araújo, aqui do Q&A. Por que a alfa-beta ou gama-tocoferol, né, tem formas diferentes aí de estrutura, de produto, e podem trazer benefícios diferentes para produto e para pele? O senhor já explicou isso, né? Mas ela quer saber em relação se essas diferenças que existentes, né, na estrutura causam alguma diferença no mecanismo de reação entre, tipo, o que acontece no produto ou o que acontece na pele. Da preferência de ser alfa, beta ou gama.
Okay. A very good question. Now we need to dive a little bit deeper into chemistry. So is my screen still shared or not? Yeah, it is good.
No. Yes.
No?
No, yes.
Okay. I will share my screen and then it's easier to follow my words. So here you can see alpha, beta, gamma, and delta tocopherol. And the difference is here the alkyl group. Here we have two, here we have one here, and here is none. Here we have one here, and here is none. And here we don't have an alkyl group here and here. And if we are talking about the antioxidative protection, the hydroxyl group of the molecule is very important. And if you have an alkyl group here and here, you have a steric protection of the alkyl group. The alkyl group is a steric protector of the hydroxyl group. And therefore, you have a lower efficiency in the antioxidative reaction. So this means without the alkyl groups, we have a stronger antioxidative efficiency. Here, beta, gamma, it's nearly the same. But here, the hydroxyl group is protected by both alkyl groups here. And so the efficacy is lower. This is the main reason for the challenge test results I showed you here. But what you need to consider if we are talking about the bioactivity, this is different because the human body uses the alpha TTP protein, so the alpha tocopherol transfer protein, which is produced in our liver to transport the tocopherol in our skin. And it's transported via the very low density protein in our skin. And this protein has a very high affinity to alpha tocopherol, but a low affinity to beta, gamma, and delta tocopherol. And that is the reason why alpha tocopherol shows the highest bioactivity, and it is the best suitable antioxidant for the human skin. But if we are just talking about oils and we don't need to transport the tocopherol from point 1 to point 2, then the more delta tocopherol you have inside, the higher will be the efficiency. That's it.
Ok. Uma outra pergunta. É possível afirmar que o uso do BHT pode causar distúrbios hormonais?
I mean, that's always a problem with scientific results. So today we only know what was analyzed in the last years, but we do not know what will be found in the next years. So I cannot really give you a yes or a no. I mean, there are some hints existing, And I mean, finally, in my opinion, it's always good to choose the safe way. I mean, if you want to pass a river and you have two bridges and the first one is very safe and the other one might be safe, I guess most of us would choose the very safe bridge. So this is the only answer I can give you. I mean, we have the same, or not the same, but a similar discussion about parabens. How harmful are parabens really? And yeah, my opinion is if you have an alternative and the alternative is safer, I would always choose the alternative.
Ok. Mais uma questão. Com relação ao Cosfaderm e Tapimix, a combinação, né, da vitamina C com a vitamina E potencializa a ação antioxidante em termos de tempo de duração, né, do produto, ou seja, garante por mais tempo?
Exactly. This is what you will get. You will have a longer protection against oxidation processes. So finally, a longer shelf life of your oils.
Ok. Tem duas perguntas que eu vou reunir sobre filtro solar. Uma delas é tá no do Christian Nation, do Luiz Eduardo, que ele pergunta assim: antioxidante pode ter ação sinérgica com os ativos do filtro solar? É que ele pergunta antioxidantes de uma forma geral, ele não especifica se natural ou sintético, ele perguntou de uma forma geral.
Can be, but so far we do not had these kind of problems with our natural vitamin E. So far we could not, we never got any feedback from one of our customers who faced this problem. But I'm not so familiar with all these synthetic antioxidants that are existing. I read about these kind of interactions, but so far we could not see any interactions in combination with our products. But if he's really thinking about one specific product and interaction, of course, he can write an email and I will double check it if I can find anything about these interactions. This would be definitely the best way.
Ok, então, Luiz Eduardo, encaminha para a gente aí o questionamento e a gente encaminha lá para o Dr. Carsten na Alemanha, ok? A segunda questão, em relação a filtro solar, é se a melhor opção, né, do portfólio da Cosfatec para filtro solar seria usar a versão do acetato de tocoferol como antioxidante para formulação.
I mean, if we are talking about sun filters, we also need to differ between mineralic sun filters and the chemical sun filters. And the mineralic sun filters are much less influenced and much more stable. I mean, in particular, when you are using the chemical sun filters, you really need to take care that you are not using the sunscreen too long. So not the sunscreen from last year still using, because you might have some changes in the molecule, and there are some reports existing that some higher cancer risks because of some molecule changes. You don't have this problem with mineralic sun filters. If you want to use tocopherols, again, you can use the normal vitamin E, so mixed tocopherols, to protect the sun cream against oxidation. So if you want to avoid that your sunscreen and all your ingredients becomes rancid and are attacked by reactive oxidant species, the T70 non-GMO, T70 non-GMO Eco would be the best choice. What I mentioned regarding the tocopherol acetate is that if you have, for example, or if you want to have a bioactive protection in your sun cream, then I would recommend the acetate for a typical sun cream because it comes in contact with much stronger conditions. If you have, let's say, a good comparison would be, let's take after sun lotion. The after sun lotion might be stored by the final consumer in the bathroom and everything is fine, temperature is relatively stable, not direct sunlight, and everything is okay. So in this case, I would definitely use pure alpha tocopherol because of the higher efficiency. But if you want to add it to your sun cream and the consumer takes it to the beach and it lies in the sun for the whole day, then I would always recommend to use the acetate because of the higher stability.
Ok. Uma pergunta sobre o Cosfaderm Tapmix para uso capilar. Se você podia explicar um pouco melhor além da ação antioxidante da vitamina C e E, a da lecitina, no sentido do condicionamento da fibra.
Yes, I mean, we all know that you can add some silicone dimethicone to your hair and it feels great, but it's not really healthy for your hair. And the lecithins are, let's say, the oldest products that are used for, or they are used since a very long time for a better hair feeling and for the health of the hair. I guess most of you maybe know from your parents or from your grandmother, sometimes people in the past were using the red part of a chicken egg and added it to their hair. And this is because of the phospholipids inside. So we have a lot of phospholipids inside, and phospholipids are lecithins. And the lecithins are attaching into the hair follicle and restore the natural fat film of the hair. And this is why they are really very, very good and great for hair conditioning.
Ok. Obrigada. Nós encerramos as questões, né? E vamos, né, deixar aqui na tela o contato da gente e a gente encaminha todos os questionamentos aí que são feitos lá para a Cosfatec na Alemanha. Então, a gente agradece, né, também a participação de todos, né, a todo o pessoal do time lá do Ciências da Vida, da Colormix, agradecemos a ABC, agradecemos em especial ao Dr. Carsten Dietz pela colaboração e pela, né, esses esclarecimentos tão importantes aí para essa categoria de produtos que são os antioxidantes, né. Aqui a gente costuma classificá-los genericamente como adjuvantes, né, como atores que colaboram aí para o personagem principal, que são os ativos, mas que são fundamentais para a gente garantir tanto a estabilidade do produto, né, como a saúde da pele também. Então, os nossos contatos ficam aí à disposição de todos vocês, né, para que tirem as suas dúvidas e o que precisar de um apoio no desenvolvimento de projetos, a gente está sempre à disposição. E é isso, mais uma vez agradecendo, né, a ABC pelo convite, pela possibilidade da participação. Lembrando a todos que quem perdeu o começo, né, está lá gravadinho nos canais do YouTube, tanto da ABC como da Colormix Especialidades. E, mais uma vez, obrigada, Dr. Carsten, pela sua colaboração conosco.
Thank you.